Da Vinci is one of a long line of artists who have told us, beginning with the ancient Egyptians and running through the early Christians and Tibetans, that art is a medium. It's a conduit. For over 5 centuries, millions have looked at the same painting without noticing what may be hidden right in front of them, on a quiet wall inside a monastery in Milan. The Last Supper has captivated the world. Created by Leonardo da Vinci in the 1490s, it remains one of the most deeply studied artworks in history. Every gesture, every shadow, and every expression has been carefully examined by historians, theologians, and even conspiracy theorists. But now, something entirely new has emerged. A team of researchers has taken high-resolution scans of the masterpiece and fed them into advanced AI systems, opening the door to discoveries no one has ever seen before. These were algorithms trained to spot patterns far too subtle for the human eye to catch. They weren't focused on brush strokes or hidden sketches beneath the paint. Instead, they searched for structure, mathematical symmetry, unusual alignments, and visual anomalies that might suggest something more. What they found surprised even the experts. Tiny geometric patterns, symbolic placements that seemed too precise to be coincidence, and arrangements in the positioning of the disciples that hint at a deeper, hidden layer beneath the biblical scene. It doesn't look random. It doesn't feel accidental. It feels intentional. Before we dive into what this message could mean, make sure to like and subscribe, because not everyone wants this kind of discovery getting attention. If these findings hold up, it could mean that Leonardo da Vinci deliberately embedded something within this sacred image, something that challenges how we've understood this moment for centuries. And the more you look, the more unsettling it becomes. That painting is The Last Supper, and the man behind it was no ordinary artist. Inside the quiet dining hall of Santa Maria del Grazier, Leonardo da Vinci spent 3 years creating what appears to be a simple biblical moment. Jesus and his 12 disciples sharing a final meal before the crucifixion. But Leonardo was never simple. He was far more than a painter, an inventor, scientist, engineer, and visionary, far ahead of his time. He was fascinated by puzzles, symbols, and hidden meanings. His notebooks were filled with mirror writing and strange diagrams that puzzled scholars for centuries. For him, art wasn't just about beauty. It was a way to conceal knowledge. And The Last Supper may have been his most ambitious secret. When he created this masterpiece between 1495 and 1498, Leonardo broke with tradition. Instead of using the standard fresco technique, he experimented with his own method, applying paint onto dry plaster. This gave the work richer, more vivid colors, but it also caused it to deteriorate much faster over time. Yet, those same fragile layers of paint, the ones that cracked and faded, may have also allowed him to hide something beneath the surface. For centuries, people have noticed unusual details in The Last Supper. The arrangement of the disciples feels almost mathematical. The direction of their hands, their gaze, even the placement of the bread and cups, it all seems carefully planned, as if nothing was left to chance. Some researchers have suggested that the objects form musical notes, like a hidden melody woven into the scene. Others have argued that the figure sitting beside Jesus isn't John, but Mary Magdalene, an idea that would completely change how we interpret the story itself. But for a long time, these remained just theories with no solid proof. That began to change when a group of researchers decided to study the painting in a completely new way using artificial intelligence. In 2025, a team of scientists from Italy and Japan launched a project called Da Vinci Decoded. Their goal was to analyze the artwork in extreme detail down to every single pixel. They believed Leonardo da Vinci may have hidden messages or markings within the painting, details too subtle for the human eye to detect. To do this, they used hyperspectral imaging, a powerful scanning technique that captures light and color beyond what we can naturally see. It allowed them to peer through layers of paint and centuries of buildup. Every crack, shadow, and brushstroke was converted into digital data. That data was then fed into an AI system trained on Leonardo's handwriting, sketches, and coded notes from his journals. And after weeks of analysis, something unexpected began to appear. The AI started detecting patterns no one had ever noticed before, faint markings that looked like tiny letters or symbols, hidden beneath the surface. At first, the team assumed it was just random, cracking or damage from aging paint. But as more scans were processed, the same shapes kept appearing again and again, slowly forming what looked like actual words. What made it even more surprising was where these markings were found. They weren't near Jesus or the disciples, where you might expect something important to be hidden. Instead, they showed up in the darker, overlooked areas behind the table, along the walls, and inside the archways, places no one had really paid attention to before. That's when it became clear this wasn't random, it was intentional. Leonardo da Vinci, a man known for hiding ideas in symbols and coded sketches, may have embedded real words within the Last Supper, and those words, still partially hidden beneath centuries of paint, were only just starting to come to light. No one in the lab was ready for what followed. The AI decryption phase had begun. Back in Florence, the team gathered around their screens as the system continued its work, no longer searching, but actually reading. And what it began to uncover left even the most skeptical researchers in stunned silence. On the main screen, a magnified image of the Last Supper glowed softly. The AI had marked several small areas in red, the same spots where it kept detecting unusual patterns. These appeared along the stone wall behind Jesus, in the shadows beneath the table, and even within the folds of the disciples' robes. At first glance, the marks looked like nothing more than scratches or cracks from age. But once the system enhanced the data using hyperspectral imaging, something unexpected emerged. Faint letters, almost like ghosts hidden beneath layers of paint. Some were tilted, others reversed, and a few arranged in ways that felt too deliberate to ignore. Dr. Elena Rossi, the lead historian on the project, leaned closer to the screen. After more than 20 years studying Leonardo da Vinci, even she was caught off guard. Her voice dropped as she spoke. These aren't random. He intended them to be discovered, just not in his own time. The AI had been trained to recognize Leonardo's unique writing style, especially his famous mirror script, where text is written backward and can only be read using a mirror. As the analysis continued, the system began linking symbols and matching them with phrases found in his old notebooks. Piece by piece, fragments of sentences slowly started to take shape. At first, the words were faint and fragmented, barely recognizable. Terms like ombra, shadow, verita, truth, and tremento, betrayal, began to surface. But as more data was processed, those scattered words slowly started connecting, forming short phrases that made everyone in the room uneasy. It felt almost as if the Last Supper was whispering something across time. To rule out any digital errors, the team ran multiple verification scans using different techniques: ultraviolet, infrared, and X-ray fluorescence. Every method confirmed the same thing. The faint writing was real. It physically existed beneath the surface, hidden within the layers of paint. News of the discovery spread quietly through academic circles. Only a small group of experts knew what was unfolding. The researchers agreed to keep everything confidential until they fully understood what they had found. Even the Vatican was only given a general update that unusual sublayers had been detected without revealing the full details. Meanwhile, the AI continued to evolve. It began mapping the painting like a complex puzzle, linking symbols, geometry, and positioning. What it revealed next was even more striking. The letters weren't randomly placed. They followed a deliberate pattern, forming a spiral that began near Jesus' right hand and moved outward, passing across each disciple in sequence. It was like a code woven directly into the artwork. When Dr. Rossi saw the complete mapping on the screen, she felt a chill. After decades studying Leonardo da Vinci, this was unlike anything she had ever encountered. "It's as if he hid a message in motion," she said quietly, like the painting itself was waiting for the right mind to finally understand it. Then something even more unusual began to happen. As the analysis continued, the AI stopped producing just scattered words and started forming complete sentences. Many of the Italian phrases were written in an older dialect, the kind Leonardo da Vinci used in the late 1400s. When translated, they revealed cryptic messages, possibly warnings or reflections that seemed to question truth and belief itself. One line read, "What is seen is not what is true." Another said, "The hands speak louder than the mouths of men." These weren't biblical quotes, and they didn't match any known texts. They felt personal, like private thoughts hidden away where no one was ever meant to find them. The room grew quiet as the team read each line aloud. With every new scan, more fragments appeared. Some seemed harmless, but others hinted at something darker, suggestions of deception and knowledge that may have been deliberately kept from the world. To investigate further, the researchers compared these phrases with Leonardo's personal journals. Again and again, the AI found striking similarities, matching words, the same mirror writing style, even familiar terms of phrase. For a long moment, no one said anything. The room felt suddenly colder. Dr. Rossi was the first to speak, her voice slightly unsteady. If this is real, then Leonardo da Vinci wasn't just painting a scene. He was leaving a message for the future, for us. Silence returned as the team absorbed what they had just seen. Then, without needing to say it out loud, they all came to the same conclusion. Whatever they were uncovering, it wasn't ready to be shared with the world. Not yet. They agreed to keep everything confidential until every detail could be verified. But deep down, they all felt it. Something hidden within the Last Supper had been waiting for centuries. And now, with the help of artificial intelligence, it was finally beginning to reveal itself. Days turned into weeks. The team continued scanning the painting while the AI worked relentlessly, analyzing millions of image fragments and comparing them with Leonardo's writings. With each new pass, more faint words surfaced beneath the layers of paint. What had started as scattered letters was now forming complete phrases. Strange, thought-provoking sentences that felt as though they were coming directly from Leonardo's own mind. And with every new discovery, the mystery only grew deeper. The AI discovered that the hidden text wasn't placed randomly. It followed a precise structure based on the golden ratio, a mathematical pattern that Leonardo da Vinci often used in his work. The design seemed to radiate outward from Jesus at the center, forming spiral-like symmetry. It was as if the message had been built directly into the framework of the Last Supper, waiting centuries to be discovered. As the scans went deeper, the words became clearer. The AI translated the faded Italian into modern language, and what it revealed unsettled everyone who read it. The messages spoke of truth, deception, and betrayal, ideas that echoed the tone of Leonardo's private writings. It was becoming impossible to dismiss this as coincidence. These phrases appeared deliberate. The first complete sentence was found along the wall behind Jesus. It read, "All faith fades when light reveals the hand of man." The line seemed to challenge the idea of divine perfection, suggesting that what people believed to be sacred might actually be shaped by human influence. Another message appeared near the shadow of Judas, the disciple known for betrayal. It read, "He who eats with truth will not betray himself." As more phrases were uncovered, the researchers noticed a pattern in their placement. Each message seemed connected to a specific disciple, almost like hidden reflections tied to each figure in the scene. Beneath Peter, faint text translated to "strength without understanding is blind," and near Thomas, who doubted the resurrection. The message read, "To question is not sin, but the path to clarity." With every new line, it felt less like random discovery and more like a carefully constructed message hidden in plain sight. These discoveries began to reveal a very different side of Leonardo da Vinci's intent. It didn't seem like he was mocking religion. Instead, he appeared to be challenging blind faith, urging people to seek reason, knowledge, and truth beyond what they were simply told to believe. But as the system continued digging deeper, the tone of the messages grew darker. In the lower right corner of the Last Supper, near the feet of the disciples, the AI uncovered a longer line hidden beneath multiple layers of paint. After enhancement and translation, it read, "The ones who hold power will bury truth beneath stone until the eyes of the future uncover it." That single sentence changed everything. It sounded less like a reflection and more like a warning, possibly even a prediction. It suggested that knowledge could be deliberately hidden by those in power, waiting for a future generation to rediscover it. As more phrases were revealed, the meaning began to shift from art into something closer to prophecy. The AI grouped the messages by tone and placement, and together they formed a chilling narrative, one that spoke of corruption, deception, and the control of truth through fear. Leonardo once wrote in his journals that the eyes can only see what the mind is ready to understand. Now, it felt as though he had embedded that same idea into the very core of his most famous work. As the data continued to build, the researchers noticed something else. Every major phrase followed a precise mathematical structure. When mapped digitally, the letters formed geometric alignments that all pointed toward the center, toward Jesus, the focal point of the entire painting. And within that central space, there was something no one had ever documented before. Beneath the original pigment of Jesus's robe, the AI detected something almost invisible, an inscription so faint it could only be revealed through hyperspectral imaging. When translated, it read, "Truth belongs not to the saints, but to those who seek it in silence." That single line quickly became the most talked-about discovery of the entire project. It carried a mix of wisdom and quiet defiance, suggesting that truth isn't simply given, it must be searched for. In Leonardo da Vinci's time, when the church held immense authority over knowledge, this would have been a bold and risky idea. The researchers began comparing these findings with Leonardo's other works. In many of his sketches, he often placed human figures within geometric shapes, symbols that some interpret as reason confined by belief. His private notes frequently warned about blind obedience and the dangers of accepting ideas without questioning them. The hidden messages in the Last Supper seemed to echo those same thoughts, but on a much larger, more deliberate scale. When the full translation was completed, it revealed nearly 40 separate phrases, each connected to different parts of the painting. Together, they appeared to form a single unified message, one that hinted at corruption hidden behind the appearance of holiness. Using AI reconstruction, the team identified an overarching line tying everything together. Faith without reason is the sleep of truth, and those who awaken will see what was once forbidden. That final statement left everyone stunned. It suggested that Leonardo may have intentionally embedded a message meant for the distant future, one that would only be understood when the time was right. For centuries, countless people have stood before the Last Supper, drawn to its beauty and emotion. Yet beneath that surface, something quieter may have been waiting all along. A voice from Leonardo himself reaching across time, and now, with the help of artificial intelligence, that voice has finally begun to be heard. But the discovery didn't bring just wonder, it also brought fear. Because if Leonardo da Vinci's message is real, then the Last Supper was never meant to be only about faith. It points to something deeper: power, knowledge, and the risk of one being used to control the other. And now that moment had arrived. As the truth began to emerge beyond the walls of the monastery dining hall, it felt as if the world itself started to shake under its weight. The aftermath was immediate: fear, denial, and intense debate. Within hours of the findings being made public, reactions spread everywhere. Headlines flooded the media. Social platforms exploded with discussion. News channels ran non-stop coverage. The idea that Leonardo might have hidden messages inside the painting sent shockwaves across universities, churches, and homes around the globe. Historians described it as a groundbreaking discovery. Some religious groups, however, called it deeply concerning. The Vatican issued a brief public statement saying it would review the findings carefully. But behind the scenes, there was clear unease. The messages didn't directly attack belief, but they raised difficult questions. They hinted at truth being hidden, knowledge being controlled, and ideas that would have been incredibly bold for the 15th century. Meanwhile, the research team in Florence found themselves at the center of global attention. Just weeks earlier, they had been working quietly in a lab. Now, reporters crowded outside their building, cameras waiting for any update. In their final detailed report, the team confirmed that the phrases closely matched Leonardo's distinctive mirror writing style. The patterns weren't random. The markings showed consistency, strongly suggesting they were created by his own hand. The conclusion felt unavoidable. The message appeared to be intentional. Around the world, debates quickly intensified. Some believed Leonardo da Vinci had left behind a warning for the future, that truth and reason would eventually rise above blind belief. Others argued the AI had simply misinterpreted natural cracks in the aging paint. But those who truly understood Leonardo's work knew one thing: he was incredibly precise. Every line, every shadow, every proportion in his art was carefully planned. Nothing was accidental. Museums soon began creating digital overlays, allowing visitors to see exactly where the hidden markings had been detected within the Last Supper. People stood in long lines, staring closely at the faint inscriptions beneath the surface. For many, the experience felt almost spiritual, like the painting had been designed to reveal its full meaning only centuries later, when technology was finally advanced enough to uncover it. Still, not everyone welcomed the discovery. Some religious leaders criticized the scans, calling them disrespectful to a sacred work of art. In parts of Italy, protests formed outside museums. Yet, the images continued to spread online, impossible to contain. The debates carried on, but none of it could undo what had already been revealed. The Last Supper still hangs where it always has, inside the quiet refectory in Milan. Its paint remains fragile, its figures unchanged. And yet, the way people see it has shifted forever. Now, when viewers look at the faces of Jesus and the disciples, they search for something more, something hidden just beneath the surface, a silent message from a man far ahead of his time. Leonardo always believed that truth could exist in plain sight, waiting for those willing to truly see it. And now, with the help of modern technology, his voice seems to echo once again across the centuries. The secret was never lost. It was simply waiting to be found.